Good Sunday to the world, planet Earth. This is the pollinator, and I one of these days I'm gonna get a setup in here that has better lighting, better camera, better everything. Which leads me to the topic that I want to talk about tonight. And before I talk about that topic, um, I just wanted to say to my followers and subscribers, friends and family, loved ones, strangers, it doesn't matter that. Although I have not been talking about my transition a whole lot the past few months. I want y'all to know that this is part of my transition. Even if I'm not talking about female to male type issues and things of that nature, I will return to that. But I just have, a lot going on in my life and a lot on my mind. And, people go through many transitions in their life. And so I'm talk a lot about different kinds of transitions besides the female to male transition, and then I will end up wrapping that back around. But let me talk about a word, and that word is abundance. I've been wanting to make a video about this for a while now, but I got all fired up and stuff about other things. But I want to talk about abundance because a lot of people think that the only meaning of abundance is wealth, having an abundance of money. But let me give you some other definitions that have made my life so full and have made me so full that I'm just bustling with everything that I've done in life, all of the trials and the tribulations and my successes, my failures. All of it is because I have an abundance of many things. And fun fact about me. I was a very strange child. I used to read and study the dictionary. I don't know why. It's just something I did, and I also used to just start writing things out of encyclopedias. I didn't study encyclopedias. I just would open up the encyclopedia and start writing exactly what I saw. I have no idea why I did that, but I did. I'd write things out of the encyclopedia, and I studied the dictionary. I also taught myself how to write backwards as well as I write forward. I can print backwards and I can print forward. Another strange thing, which leads to a funny story. In boot camp when I was in the Air Force. Maybe I'll tell that story later. I don't know if I remember. So let's talk about this word abundance. And I'm going to take this straight out of, I think, Webster's dictionary. But abundance for me means an extremely plentiful or oversufficient quantity or supply. Okay, and it means overflowing fullness. The other meaning is wealth and affluence, and an abundant supply. Oh, and affluence also means an abundant supply as of thoughts or words. Okay, profusion. So let me talk about this abundance thing in my life, and maybe some of you can relate to it, maybe you can't. Um, Growing up, as I have stated, I had the kind of abundance that was wealth. You know, I was spoiled rotten. You know, my dad saw to it that we were very, very well taken care of. And so I had an abundance of things, material things, and toys, and, you know, whatnot. Um, and, you know, and my mother forced me to share my abundance with my family, which I did. I hated it. I didn't want to do it. You know, the family was over our house every week, all summer, because we used to play softball games together and then get together for a potluck at our house afterwards. And I would hide my toys, my money, everything. I would hide it from my cousins. And I just found out on Mother's Day of this year that my sister, Annette, she knew where my toy stash, she knew where I was hiding things, my toys and my money. And she would tell my other cousins, you know, where my stash was, and to go, you know, I could play with all that. They could play with all of that stuff as long as they put it exactly back the way they found it. Otherwise, I would know. Because while they were playing with my stuff and Annette was giving them my money to go get ice cream and whatever else they wanted, well, I didn't know that part, but I was outside playing football. I was, you know, with the boys, and the girls were going through my stuff. I was floored. I was so full. I was full that day. Mother's Day of this year, my cousins made me full of love and joy and humor because of the antics my little sister used to pull with regards to my toys. um, and she had a big heart, you know. That's why she did that. She knew they wanted to get to my stuff, and so she let them. So so let me walk through to my teenage years, latter teenage years. I began to develop an abundance of, well, I had, I guess you could say, an abundance of courage. Things got very, very rough for me in my latter teens. I mean, I ended up homeless during that time. I was very heavy into drugs and alcohol, and I spent, you know, all of my money and my time pursuing that lifestyle, and I kept running into situations that I don't know if I was crazy, I was high, or I was brave. But I would walk into the face of danger, and I would walk into the face of things, and then something got me out. You know, I literally, here's a story. I got involved with some pimps, hustlers, prostitutes in my latter teens. And one day, one particular day, I was downtown in my hometown, and I had gone to a nightclub to congratulate a lady that I knew that won Miss Black Brick House. Remember the Commodores? You know, I'm a brick, boom, 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 boom. Anyway, I went to congratulate her, and when I was coming out of that bar, two guys approached me on the sidewalk, and I stopped, and they said, "We know you." I said, "Well, I don't know you." And they said, well, we know your daddy, and we know your family, and so we know you. And I said, well, I don't care. You may think you know me and my family and my dad, and I bet you don't. I don't give a fuck. So they saw that I wasn't going to, whatever it was that they were trying to say, which, you know what, people attach themselves to our family because of who my father was, and I was never impressed by that. In fact, it pissed me off because I didn't care who thought they knew my family. If they weren't coming to our house and they weren't hanging out with me and they weren't hanging out with my dad, they didn't know anybody. They didn't know him. They just, you know, people would want to live vicariously through us, I suppose. And they could go tell their friends, you know, we know so and so. It happens when you're living in the life of fame. But so anyway, the next thing out of these guys, one of the guys said, well, okay, so you want to be a bitch or whatever. We saw you come out of a gay bar. I was like, oh shit. And I just looked at them, and they proceeded to put their hands on me because I told them I didn't care where they saw me. It was none of their business. And a scuffle broke out. And I ended up being thrown on top of my car, on the hood of my car, which was right behind them. And I ended up kicking that guy as hard as I could in his private parts. And he fell off of my car. I fell off of my car. I ended up, you know, practically on the street, on the side of my car. My shirt was all messed up. And while he was groaning in pain, I got up and dusted myself off. And out of nowhere came this woman. She attacked me. And she started scratching my face with her nails. And I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea what was going on. And so I got into a scuffle with her, ended up swinging her around and throwing her into a glass window that broke and set off a very, very loud alarm for that business. I mean, that thing was loud. And when that went off, everybody ran. I ran. I jumped in my car. The guy who was wrenching in pain on the ground had recovered. He got up and jumped in my car. The woman, I don't know where she went, but I was carrying weed. I had a big 5-finger lid of weed in my sock. And so I ran because I didn't want, you know, if the police were called, I didn't want to get busted carrying drugs. So this guy's on the driver's side of my car, and I'm in my passenger seat of my car. And I said, punch it. And this guy took off. So he drives me to his house. I didn't know where we were going. All I knew was we needed to get out of where we were, you know, before the police showed up. So we get to this house, and I'm looking at him, and he's apologizing to me he told me that woman was his woman, and that she saw the whole thing, and that's why she attacked me, and he was apologizing, and I was literally bleeding. My face, her nails had really punctured my face. So he was apologizing for that, and he said, why don't we get you cleaned up? You know, come inside, we'll get you cleaned up. So my high ass gets out of my car. He gets out of my car. I look over, and there's 4 or 5 women standing in the doorway of his house. And one of them comes comes closer to my car and starts screaming that I attacked her girl. what girl and who are these people and what the hell is really going on. So she jumps on the roof of my car. The roof of my car, standing on my car, beating her chest, talking about you bulldagger, you dyke, you blah, blah, blah. I'm going to kick your ass. You hurt my woman, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm so confused. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So anyway, okay, let me speed this story up. I end up knocking her out. Okay, she was chasing me around my car, in and out of my car, and I finally got tired of running around my car, and I stopped behind it, and when she came back around, I knocked her out. So everybody's going, like this, and the guy says, well, come inside, let's get you cleaned up. So I went inside this guy's house, and when I get inside, there's 4 or 5 other women in there, and instead of getting me cleaned up, he told me to have a seat on the couch. So I had a seat on the couch. They stole my weed, they stole my money, and he told me that he expected me to fuck his women in front of him. I said, you're gonna have to kill me. I ain't doing shit. And stole my money, you took my weed, fuck you, and I don't care what you're asking me, I ain't gonna do it. I'm going home. So I proceeded to get up and go out the front door. And when I got out the front door, my car was gone. My car was gone. So I'm standing there thinking, what the hell is happening? So I turn and run back in, and I'm saying, where the fuck's my car? And everybody just kind of looks at me, and he tells me that the other guy that I had seen at that club had taken my car. Okay, so he says, but I'll take you to go get your car. I'll take you to where your car is. Now, if I wasn't so high, you know what I should have run. Just fuck the car. But run from these people. Because I didn't know what was going on, and I was very naive, and I did not know the ways of the street, and I'm sure they thought I was quite amusing because I didn't. And so instead of running and not worrying about my car, which, what I thought? Oh, my dad is going to kill me if I show up without my car and tell him it got stolen and blah, 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 and then I have to explain, what's going on, what had gone on earlier that day, and I didn't want to explain that. So I tell the guy, okay, take me to get my car. So I get in his car. He drives down the 24th and Lake. He says, hold on a minute, I need to pick somebody up here and take them home. He disappears into this crap house on the corner, and I'm sitting in the back of his car, and about 15, 20, 25 minutes later, he comes out with a woman, and they get in a car. She gets in the front seat, and we drive her down the street to her house. And when we got there, she got out, and then I got out. I didn't know this woman from Adam. Okay, I didn't know her, but I figured my chances of something really bad happening would be better if I went with her versus stay with this guy, because what was going on there was I was completely confused. So he said, where you going? And she said, where you going? And I said, I'm going with you. And she said, I don't know you. You're not coming with me. And so the guy jumps out the car and he says, all right, no more games. I'm going to take you to get your car. I looked at her, I looked at him, and I said, oh my God, I got myself in a mess here. I get back in his car, and he takes me to another house over off of 30th Street. So we get to this house, and sure enough, my car is sitting on the street. So I told him, well, you know what, go inside and get my keys from the other guy and let me be on my way. He said, no, actually I got some dope. I got, you know, some PCP. We got some, let's party. Here I go, 17 years old. Here I go again. I go into this house and I proceed to party with these characters. We got high, and I got high on some other stuff, PCP, I think. It was terrible. I mean, what a terrible drug that was. But, so we finished partying, and the guy gives me my keys, and I proceed to walk out. And the guy that took me to get my car says, well, I'd like to get to know you a little better. Why don't we jet back over to your house and, you know, party a little bit more. I said, okay. So I took him to my house, and we stayed up all night till the sun came up, talking and smoking weed. And then he left. Tell me there is no God. Tell me that he didn't give me something that kept me alive during times like that. An abundance of something. I don't even know what you call it, because I was young, naive, high. All sorts of things could have happened that night. I could have gotten killed that night. But there is a God. And there's been an angel watching over me all my life. From various things that I've done that I ended up getting out of. So, okay. I never saw the guy again. Thank God. I survived that night without getting hurt any more than that woman did when she cut my face up with her fingernails. But, okay, so then, you know, my life got worse and worse. I ended up, like I said, homeless, and I won't even tell you that period of time. I'll leave that for my book, for you to read in my book. But a very dear lady that I respected, and she also, I will talk about in my book, told me under a really crazy circumstance to join the service. And up until that point in time, I was pretty rebellious. I didn't respect authority. I did not like authority. I didn't like anything like that. But I assessed my life, which was crap. It was crap. Okay, what I was doing with my life was nothing. And something, and I don't know what it was, whether it was courage or being brave or trust. I trusted what she said. She told me, you're very, very bright. You're wasting your life. You're wasting your time. You're hanging around with some extremely dangerous people who could care less if they killed you. So do something. Go into the service. And I said, okay, Lomi. All right, I'll think about it. And within a couple months, I joined the military, which was a very scary thing to do for me, being it that I didn't like authority, let alone a chain of command. So I began to change my life. I began to change my ways. And, you know, then later, like, let's see, I was 19 when I joined the Air Force. It was post-Vietnam, so I didn't have to go into combat, or I didn't have to experience war. And when I got out of the military, I didn't know what to do with my life, because at that time, to be a soldier was not, you know, post-Vietnam, civilians did not respect us. And I had a really hard time trying to get a job, but I got one. I landed one and began my career in the computer industry. And everything that I did inside of my career was like, I always reached for a level higher than I knew I could achieve. I would go for jobs that I had no experience with. But I did it, and I did it, and I did it, and I did it over and over and over again, until 14, 15, 16 years later, I was making a six-figure income. I say all that to say that where the abundance started for me? Having something extremely plentiful and over-sufficient started inside. It started inside. When I went into the service, it was something that changed my life. And then I got clean and sober, which changed my life. I've always had a lot of courage. I've always stepped out of the box. I've always done things that made me strive towards something. And I didn't even really have clear-cut goals. I just knew I wanted my life to improve. And I wanted it to improve all the time. And so everything I did was geared towards that. I didn't care what I had to do, as long as it looked like I was going to feel better, I was going to think better, and I was going to do better. I went overboard on wanting to do all those things and achieving all of those things, because I was never ever satisfied sitting still and living the life, not growing, not getting more and more promotions, I was never satisfied. I was happy, but I never let myself become complacent. You want to have abundance in your life? Get rid of being complacent. And I don't have the dictionary meaning of that word, but it really means, you're just going along and letting your life either do this or this direction, but that you're not ambitious. Ambitious about yourself, ambitious about how you feel, ambitious about your thinking. That's where you begin having an abundance of anything you want. Anything you want. The amount of money that I ended up making as a software consultant, I didn't intend to do that. You know what I intended? To do what I loved and love what I did. And that is why I ended up with abundance of money. I didn't try to make that happen. All I did was I had an abundant supply of thoughts and words. I studied everything I could get my hands on, including in my career. What ended up happening to me ended up happening without a college degree. I did not get my bachelor's degree in information technology until after my career ended. Okay, I did all that with raw effort. I did that with this. And I did that with my mouth. God put very, very good people in my life because I wanted good people in my life. I wanted people to push me. I wanted people to take me from here to here. And I let them. My sponsors loved me in Alcoholics Anonymous because when they said jump, I said how high. And I think I learned that in the military. But I had to have a level of trust with them in order to know that if I jumped off that cliff, that they would be there. You know, something, there would be a net, there would be something there. I trusted those particular sponsors that I picked, and I always picked tough sponsors. I didn't pick sponsors that sugarcoated anything. I didn't pick people who told me what I wanted to hear. They told me what I needed to hear in order to grow. So I would do things. I would have meetings with executives at my company because my sponsor told me to. Okay, he told me, and this man studied with Emmett Fox, who, if you don't know who Emmett Fox is, he writes about the Bible in a metaphysical way, which gave me a introduction to God that I didn't have at the time. And so I studied, and my sponsor used to study with this man personally. This man taught him everything he knew about life, and he was very successful. I forgot what he did for a living, but you know, with my little few months of sobriety, this guy was already in double digits, and he was tough. Okay, and he put on classes studying Emmett Fox's books. So again, I kept reaching for things that I didn't even know what I was reaching for. I didn't know, you know, I had read Emmett Fox's, one of Emmett Fox's books, and then out of the clear blue, I meet this guy who studied with the man. You know what? It's not clear blue. God did that. God has been putting people in my life. He has been putting people in my life throughout my life. And folks, I'm going to tell you something. I ended up homeless again because of depression when I lost my career. And while I was in that 14-year depression, I still would help people. While I was depressed and impoverished. Impoverished. You want to know what impoverished is? It's when you're trying to survive off of $300 a month. And you have to get government assistance. And you have to get food stamps. And you have to live in government housing. And before that, I was completely homeless. I was living in my car. And I was living in shelters. So yeah, when I tell you I grew up privileged, that didn't mean anything in my 40s when I lost my career and everything just went into the toilet. But while I was there, I still had this oversufficient supply of love and compassion for people. Even though a lot of people in my own hometown abandoned me, including people that I was running into when I was trying to get help. Even while that was happening, I was still had something because of my all the time that I spent in Alcoholics Anonymous, all of the workshops that I've done, all of the therapists that I've had, all of the psychiatrists that I've had, the hospitals I went to. I ended up in psych wards. And while I was in those psych wards, I was helping people in the ward. I'm not going to tell you which particular place I was in, but there was a young lady who was so shy and so withdrawn. And I don't know how this happened, but I ended up talking to that woman. And I ended up getting her story out of her. And she had jumped off of a bridge. And instead of killing herself, she broke her legs and woke up mad as hell that she was still alive. One day of talking to that lady, and they had karaoke night the next night. And do you know that girl, that young lady, I think she was in her latter teens or early 20s. and I was in my 40s. That young lady got up and sang at karaoke. And while she was singing, I have a cane. I walk with a cane sometimes, and I was strumming my cane like a guitar, spurring her on. You go, girl, you go. Uh-huh. The staff comes up after she sits down, and she sang for about 15, 20 minutes, song after song, 3 songs. The staff came up and said, excuse me, but are you a patient or an employee of this hospital? And I laughed, got my cane, and went back to my room with these nurses standing there going, that's a patient. And they asked me, how did you do that with that lady? In fact, they told me she had been there for weeks, maybe even months, and never talked to anybody. But she talked to me. She told me her whole story. And then she got up and had the courage to jump out of her box with me spurring her on. If that isn't an abundance of something, I don't know what is. Okay? The richness of heart, the wealth of love, self-love is where it started for me. As long as I have a lot of love for myself, I have a lot of love, an oversupply of love for others. Okay, this video is getting long, but let me fast forward to what happened yesterday. There was a pastor, one of the guys who put on the event that I went to, the black tie event I went to last night. And he got up, and a couple of times he started crying. He said, I am so full. I am so full. Full. And you know what? I know exactly what he meant. I almost started crying because I know what that feels like, to be so full that your emotions overcome you. My transition from female to male has been an awesome experience for me. And although there were negative things going on, and negative things continue to go on because that's life, but I have more positive things go on. I have more positiveness being drawn to me than the average Joe running around in this transition right now. And it started decades ago. That's why I rarely attract bullshit people in my life. And when I do, and I find out that they're full of bullshit, bye. Ain't nobody got time for that. I'm headed this direction. And if I'm running into somebody who is, being complacent and settling for mediocrity, they gotta go. Because, they don't mean to, but they will pull you down when you're trying to strive. They will pull you backwards. Misery loves company. And if they're so miserable that they will pull you down instead of letting you pull them up. I let go of people like that. I do. Not as a judgment, but as a, you know what, you can stay right where you are. That's fine. There's all sorts of ways of being in this life. And being complacent is one of them. And if you want to be complacent, God bless you. Enjoy yourself in your complacency. But I gotta go. See you later. There was something else I was trying to get to with that, but I can't remember. My mission in life, is to be full, is to stay full, is to stay woke, is not to be self-ignorant. That is why people think that I am wise, that what I have to offer the planet is not just about my transition, but it's about wisdom. And it's about courage. And it's about abundance. There is abundance on earth. There is abundance that you can get to without money. You can be dirt poor. You can be homeless. You can have nothing and have abundance. I did. It would have been much easier for me to figure out a way to kill myself than it would have been for me to let God carry me through those years until I came out the other side. And I kept holding on to one thing that I heard in Alcoholics Anonymous, which is don't quit 1 second before the miracle happens. I have had miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle in my life. So much so that I would not trade places with the richest people on earth. I wouldn't. You know why? Because I feel richer than what they look on paper. I look in their eyes and I see misery. How many people you know that had a shitload of money and committed suicide? You know why? Although they had an abundance of money, they didn't have abundance of heart. They didn't have abundance of confidence. They didn't have an abundance of love, self-love. They didn't have an abundance of a lot of things that they needed to match that money that they had. You know, that doesn't apply to everybody with money, but it applies to a lot. Through history, there have been tons and tons of celebrities who killed themselves. Michael Jackson, Prince. Come on, people. Do you understand what I'm getting at? That there is abundance to be had on the planet. And once you get that, the rest will be given to you, including money. Including money. See? But you got to change what's going on inside here first, before that other stuff is easy to attain. And I'm not saying I'm not wealthy right now. I'm not even close to wealthy. I live on a fixed income. But that's getting ready to change, because I'm getting ready to do something I love to do, which includes making these videos. I love to educate. I love to share my experience, strength, and hope with the world, whether it has to do with my transition or not. That is my advocacy. Here on Facebook, I mean, I had a lady just move me to tears today by telling me, you know what, thank you for working with me. And I said, what do you think of me for? I haven't done anything. And she said, yeah, you have. You put up with my stuff when you don't have to, but you do it anyway. And I thought about that, and I thought, wow. I said, you try to put a lump in my throat, make me cry. Because oftentimes I don't see the effect that I have on people unless they tell me. Because I don't. Do bees care what they pollinate? Which flower they're pollinating, and how and when, and what effect it's going to have on that flower? No, they pollinate the flower and they move to the next flower. And that's what I do with people. And all of my sobriety, I've been doing that. And some people catch up to me decades later and tell me something you said 30 years ago changed my life. I wasn't even aware of it. I'm never aware of it. So, I'm not looking to be acknowledged but it moves me when they come back and they say thank you. That you went out of your way and you didn't have to. There's another part about me that I may say in my book or may not. But God has given me many gifts. He has given me a lot of special gifts. And all I do is share them with people. Anyway, I've said a lot. This video is too long. But I want to leave and depart by saying, people in the world, despite the circumstances and what things look like on the outside, exterior to yourself, how horrible it looks, things are starting to look, and I'm starting to get choked up because that's the fucking truth. You can still have abundance despite all these nasty circumstances and stuff that is going on in this world right now. It's there to be had if you grab it. What do they say? Religious people, you know, claim it. Claim success. Claim happiness. Claim that stuff before you have it. In the metaphysical world, it's called affirmations. You know, before I got jobs, I said, that job is mine. Did I know that to be true? No. But I affirmed that it was mine. And I owned it. And I took it. And because I did that before I had the job, I don't know how that works, but I got the job. That goes for being self-employed. That goes for anything. You claim it, and it can be yours. Steve Harvey says it, you know, claim that crap, and it'll become yours. It's yours to be had. Pollinator loves people. Peace out.